How does the fourth dimension redefine the concept of reality? We had always assumed that reality is what we are perceiving, our experiences, what we can grasp through our senses. What the fourth dimension does is redefine the very meaning of reality. Reality isn't what you're experiencing, it is not the experience, it is the one who is experiencing. All experiences belong to the object. If you can see something, if you can experience something, it is an object. There is a subject to which all these experiences are happening. Fourth dimension is not a place. This is the most important thing to understand. It is not hyperspace. It is not an additional dimension of space added to our three dimensions. Fourth dimension is as different from our three-dimensional space as our three-dimensional space is to a two-dimensional flat surface. You cannot even imagine a world on a two-dimensional plane, because even imagination requires that thickness. You can't even move on a two-dimensional plane. In fact, if you truly understand what a two-dimensional plane is in relationship to three dimensions, you will see it isn't even real. It is only a mathematical concept. In our three-dimensional world, only shadows are two-dimensional. Now that is saying something. A shadow has no depth element. And when you remove that depth, can you even call it real? When compared to any three-dimensional object, because this additional dimension is missing, it is a shadow of a three-dimensional body. Quite literally, it is just a non-entity. It appears to be something. Shadows move, they change, they shift, but they're not doing any of that. It's all happening because of this object in three dimensions. Because three-dimensional space is allowing for this movement, allowing for a world of experiences to happen, shadows exist. In exactly the same way, fourth dimension is not space. It is a mind. A mind that can dream. Because only this fourth dimension totality can have an I thought. Rocks cannot have I thoughts. Nothing in our three-dimensional world, including a human body, cannot have an I thought. Our I thought is borrowed from consciousness. Because we are an expression of consciousness, and we are actualizing our state every moment, it just feels like this I is something unique that is only within us. Each individual feels that. I am something different from a rock. I am something different from a tree. But this difference is only in form, is only in relationship to how you are connecting with your conscious center. If fourth dimension is consciousness, then three-dimensional world is just a shadow. It isn't even real. But why does it feel so real? Because we are the fourth dimension. You cannot keep the fourth dimension out, because that is the only thing that really exists. Every time you say I am, it is not you who's saying it. It is actually consciousness saying it. That's why it's funny when you think about it. When a person says, do you know who I am? It's actually consciousness saying it. It is asserting its uniqueness. It's asserting its totality. It's asserting its individuality. What is the meaning of the word individual? It simply means something that cannot be divided. It is indivisible. That is the meaning of the word individual. Consciousness is the only thing that cannot be divided. A physical body can be divided. You can cut it into pieces. Everything in our three-dimensional world can be chopped up. But consciousness, no matter how you cut it, no matter where you cut it, it is complete. The whole idea of dividing it doesn't even apply to it, because it's a totality at every point, everywhere, at all times. That is why it is an individual. Now, this sounds weird to call consciousness an individual, because we have been referring to the word individual to living organisms. I am an individual. Not even to other organisms. Individual is something we very closely hold as this special thing that we possess, individuality. We don't even ascribe it to animals, although we can see expressions of individuality everywhere. The ultimate expression of individuality is consciousness itself. The moment you see consciousness as an indivisible totality, then you can understand everything from there. Why does it generate an I thought? Why does it dream? How do these dreams get actualized as physical form? What is the relationship between the fourth dimension and the third dimension? Why do we exist as form? Because consciousness has no necessity whatsoever to experience itself as a human body. There is nothing lacking in it. Now, we use this language. We say we are all expressions of consciousness. But that is not the right way of saying it. If we truly want to scientifically describe it, that is not the right way, because expression is always, there is something that is incomplete, and you want to fill that incompleteness by expressing. When silence is not enough, you use words. When walking is not enough, you dance. When speaking is not enough, you sing. It is a certain threshold of activity on the inside. Because the body is a restrictive phenomenon, it expresses itself. And every time it expresses itself, it is trying to push the boundaries of what it is, what it knows. That is the entire movement of life for a body. It wants to become something more. That is expression. Now, none of these things apply to consciousness. Consciousness has no need to express. It is complete, it is total, nothing is missing in it. Imagine an entity that does not have to move to know. We have to move to know. For us, knowing is movement, either internally or externally. Even to know what's happening in the world of thoughts, we have to move between thoughts. Perceptually, we are always moving. And on the outside, unless we go somewhere and actually physically be there to know it, it's cut off from us. Moving is knowing for us. Consciousness is an entity that knows without the necessity for movement. Now that right there puts it in a completely different category. An entity that is alive, conscious, aware, without any necessity to move. That is totality. Now, when this totality is blocked by perceptual thoughts, thoughts are always perceptual, they're not physical. It is hard to understand what a thought is because it is not a three-dimensional entity. It always appears to be fuzzy, non-defined, because a thought is always something more than what it can be observed as. Each thought represents infinite possible combinations in which it can be actualized. A single thought is actually infinity because it is in the realm of infinity. In the fourth dimension, even a single point is infinite because it's not a place, it's not space. So a point is not just a point is the whole thing. It's only when we focus and actualize a particular state, we freeze thoughts. Matter is actually frozen thought. What freezes it is attention, focus. In that moment, you want to keep your focus on that thought. And as long as you're able to keep your focus there, it is solidified. You can keep a thought frozen for as long as you want. But because we are constantly moving from one thought to another, we don't really exercise this choice to sit and consciously focus on a thought. Everything is changing. In a moment, we actualize a thought, and then there's another thought, there's another thought. This continuous movement from one moment to another is what, when we piece together, call life. But life is not this horizontal movement on the surface. Life is existence itself. If something is existing, if something is conscious, now that is the very definition of aliveness. Aliveness is a way of describing consciousness. It is not the other way around. It is not consciousness that is a way of describing aliveness. Because even to describe aliveness, you need consciousness.